I thought he was just a dream, until he accused me of stalking him. The boy I painted was a stranger, until he walked into the gallery. He was just a face in my paintings, until he walked in. I started painting him before I even knew his name. At first, it was just shapes, shoulders under warm light, a mouth I couldn't quite get right, the curve of a neck I felt like I'd kissed before. Except I hadn't. Except I didn't even know who the hell he was. But the dreams kept coming. Slow, strange, soft-focus things. Him in sunlight, him lying half-covered in white sheets, his chest rising like he was breathing under my skin. The same boy every time. Not quite real, not quite mine. I never saw his face clearly, not for years. Just fragments, a shadow of a smile, a flash of green eyes in a mirror, a birthmark on his hip shaped like a smudge of paint. That one stuck with me. I started adding it to every version. I told myself it was just inspiration, a phantom muse, something my brain cooked up during long, lonely nights. But the truth? It felt like remembering someone, like I was trying to paint a ghost I'd already loved once. I never showed anyone the early ones. They were too raw, too intimate, like I was caught spying on someone's soul. But eventually, I gave in. I let them out, one by one, canvas after canvas, all of him, always him. And then came the gallery. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Some wine, some awkward compliments, people pretending to know what brushwork meant. I stood there in a blazer that didn't quite fit, staring at the walls like I hadn't already lived inside every one of those frames. And then he walked in. Just like that. Tall, blonde, green eyes like cut glass. Exactly him. The same jawline I'd sketched 100 times, the same hands I'd painted curled into sheets, the same piercing eyes and swoon-worthy smile, except he wasn't smiling. And I swear to God, my stomach dropped. My legs nearly went out. I thought, honestly, I was losing my mind. He stopped dead in the middle of the room, stared at the wall like someone had punched him. His whole body froze, and then he turned. His eyes landed on me like I'd slapped him. He looked at me, then the paintings, then me again, and his face just changed. Not shock, not awe, not flattered, fear. "Who are you?" he said, voice low and sharp. "How do you know these things?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "You painted my room," he said, louder now. "That's my bedroom. That's my freaking scar." He stepped closer, eyes wide and wild. "Have you been watching me? Following me?" People started turning, staring. He shook his head like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. His voice cracked when he said it. "What the hell is this? Are you stalking me?" A few minutes later, I couldn't speak. Not really. My mouth was open, my hands half raised like I was about to explain, but I didn't have anything to explain. I don't know you," I said, which, in hindsight, probably sounded like a lie. "I swear to God, I've never seen you before." He just laughed, but not in a funny way, more like he was freaking out quietly. "Then how do you know what my room looks like?" he snapped. "How do you know about this?" He tugged up the hem of his shirt and pointed to a faint scar on his side, small, curved, exactly where I'd painted it. "This isn't public. I don't post shirtless pictures. I don't even look like this online." I felt sick, like the floor dropped out under me. "I don't know," I said, helpless. I dreamt you." His face twisted. "Wow," he said. "That's your story? You dreamt me?" I nodded, because what the hell else was I supposed to do? He stared at me for a second, like maybe he was waiting for me to crack and admit it was all some twisted joke, and then he exhaled hard and turned away. "Take them down," he said. "What?" He didn't look at me, just kept walking toward the door. "Take the paintings down," he repeated, "or I swear I'll get a lawyer. You're sick." The door slammed behind him, and just like that, he was gone. And I just stood there, alone, surrounded by 26 versions of his face, his body, his life, staring back at me like I'd done something unforgivable. Maybe I had. I don't know. But that night, I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I sat on the floor of my studio, shaking, trying to remember every dream, every detail, every moment I'd painted him without knowing who he was. And all I could think was, who is he? Why does he feel like someone I've already lost? And what the hell did I do? A few days later, I used to wake up with fragments, images, shapes, that vague ache in my chest. But now he talks. The dreams don't fade anymore. They stay, like I'm actually there with him. His voice sounds the same every time, soft, low, careful, like he knows I'll break if he's too loud. "You used to laugh more," he said last night. I remember that clearly. "Back then, you couldn't stop smiling." "Back when exactly?" He touched my jaw in the dream, just a thumb brushing under my chin, and I swear I felt it. Not dream felt. Real. My skin was warm there when I woke up. I stood in the shower for 20 minutes trying to convince myself I was just losing it, that it's stress, guilt, artistic burnout, something logical. But then I heard his voice again, fully awake, just a whisper in my head. "Please remember me." I dropped the soap, nearly cracked my skull open on the tile. So that's where I am at now. Dream Boy's giving me full monologues and apparently wants to be remembered like we dated in another life. I didn't paint that night. I just sat there staring at the canvas, hands shaking, not sure if I wanted him to show up again or never sleep again. About a week later. It was Tuesday. Normal, boring, grey-ass Tuesday. I went to the cafe near my studio, ordered my usual. I was halfway through zoning out in line when I heard it. "Hey!" I turned, and there he was, again. Him. Messy blonde hair, a tote bag slung over his shoulder, earbuds half in, looking at me like I'd just kicked his dog. I froze, didn't even say hi, just stared like a deer on espresso. He narrowed his eyes. "Are you serious right now?" "What?" "You followed me here?" I blinked. "I live down the street. I come here all the time." He looked at the cashier, like he was debating making a scene, then back at me. "You need to stop," he said. "Seriously, this is getting creepy." I could have argued. I could have pulled up my bank app and showed him the last 8 years of coffee purchases from that same counter. But instead, I just stood there, heart thudding because the bruise on his wrist, the one he flexed when he grabbed his wallet, I'd seen it in my dream the night before. Same place, same purple-blue color. I even remembered kissing it. He left before I could say anything else. My coffee went cold in my hand. Over a week later, it happened again. Yesterday. I was on the train, no headphones, just zoning out, staring at the subway map like it might reveal the meaning of life. Then someone sat next to me, too close. It was him. My whole body went tight, like a string pulled too hard. He didn't look at me at first, just eyes on his phone, fingers tapping, jaw tight. He looked pale, exhausted, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Then, without even turning, he muttered, "You're here again." I blinked. He glanced sideways, just for a second. His mouth twisted like he was trying not to snap. "Are you following me?" he said. "Seriously? Do you just pop up everywhere I go?" I opened my mouth. I wanted to say no. I swear, this wasn't on purpose, but I didn't get the chance. He exhaled sharply, shoulders sagging like the weight of the week had finally dropped all at once. "God," he muttered, dragging a hand down his face. "You're in my dreams now too, not just real life." That made me freeze. He wasn't angry anymore, just tired, shaky even. He rubbed at his eyes like he couldn't tell if he was awake or not. "Please," he said, softer now. "Just stop. Whatever this is, I can't sleep. I can't think. It's like..." He cut himself off, swallowing hard, and I just stared at him, because it hit me all at once. He was dreaming me too. He didn't know that I'd painted him, that I'd sketched the exact bruise on his wrist, the scar on his shoulder, the exact way he tenses when he's about to cry. He didn't know that he'd haunted me for years, but now I was haunting him back. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was hoping I'd explain it, or fix it, or admit to something that would make this all normal. I had nothing. The train jolted to a stop. He stood, didn't say another word, but just before the doors closed behind him, he turned and said, like it hurt to admit, "None of this feels real anymore." And then he was gone. I just sat there, staring at the floor, pulse hammering, because he was right. None of it feels real. And whatever this is, it's not just coincidence. Something is happening, and I think it's only just beginning. 3 weeks later. It was almost midnight when the knock came. Not a loud, angry knock, just this soft, uncertain tap-tap, like maybe whoever was out there was about to change their mind. I was half asleep on the couch, paint still drying on my forearm, reruns murmuring in the background. I got up, cracked the door open, and there he was. Him, soaked to the bone, hoodie clinging to his arms, eyes red-rimmed and wide like he hadn't slept in days. My heart climbed into my throat. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, shivering. Then, I had the dream again. I blinked. "What?" He looked at me like he was barely holding it together. I didn't know where else to go." I hesitated, just long enough for doubt to flicker in his eyes, then opened the door wider. He stepped inside slowly, dripping all over the floor like it didn't matter. "How did you..." I started. "Your gallery," he said quickly. "They had your name on the flyers. I googled you. Your website links to your studio. Your studio's address is public. It wasn't hard." He paused, swallowed, tugged his hoodie tighter around him, like it might keep something in. "I almost didn't come," he added quietly. "I told myself I shouldn't. That this was insane. That you were dangerous, or obsessed. I even started drafting the legal letter. Had it halfway written." I stayed quiet, let him say it. "But then the dreams kept coming, and they got worse. You said things in them, things you couldn't have known, and last night..." He trailed off, closed his eyes like he could still feel it. "I woke up crying," he said. "I don't even know why, I didn't want to be alone, and your face was still in my head." The room felt fragile, like one wrong word would send it shattering. "I'm not here to fight," he said at last. "I swear His voice cracked. "I just need to understand." I nodded, still stunned. "Okay." Silence stretched between us for a second. Then he ran a hand through his wet hair and said, like a confession, "I thought I made you up." I blinked. I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. "You've been dreaming about me?" He nodded, then looked down, almost embarrassed. "For years." I didn't know what to say. My whole chest felt like it was vibrating. "I didn't come here for closure or whatever," he said, voice shaking. "But I need to know something. One of your paintings, it's an old one, from the far corner of the gallery. There's a lake, a dock, a little blue towel with a cartoon sun on it." I felt my skin go cold. "I painted that when I was 18, I said slowly. "It came to me in a dream, just appeared in my head one night and wouldn't leave." "Why?" His voice cracked. "Because I remember that place. That exact place. I was 6. I went there every summer with my parents, except I looked it up and it doesn't exist. Not anywhere. Not on maps, not in family albums. They don't remember it at all." He looked up at me. "Tell me that painting's not real." I didn't answer, because I couldn't. Instead, I whispered, "I'm Evan." He blinked, a slow, shaky breath. Then, "I'm Jacob." And the second he said it, something deep in my chest unlocked, like I'd been waiting to hear that name my whole life. We just sat there, in silence, the dream between us finally starting to feel real. A few weeks later. It's been 3 weeks since he showed up at my door. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece, we've fallen into something like a rhythm. Late-night coffees, half-finished conversations, awkward silences that don't feel quite so awkward anymore. He doesn't flinch when I look at him now, doesn't guard his words like they're weapons. Some nights, he even laughs, quiet and tired, but real. He hasn't gone back to his place in over a week, and now, Jacob's curled up on my couch, bare feet tucked under him, eyes half closed. He's been coming over more often, too wired to sleep alone. The dreams are worse now, for both of us. We've started comparing notes, and that's how we got here. I'm flipping through one of my old sketchbooks. I hadn't touched it in years, but something told me to dig it out. Page after page, loose pencil outlines of Jacob before I knew he was real, some smiling, some crying, one of him floating in a dark lake. When I pause on that last one, Jacob stiffens. "I've seen this," he says, leaning in. "That place, with the trees, the little wooden fence in the back." My pulse jumped. This came from a dream I had in college. He shakes his head. "No, that place is real, or it was. I was there. I remember standing at that fence. There was a woman crying. Someone was calling my name." I ask him if he remembers my name in the memory. He goes quiet, then whispers, "Yeah, you were there too." We stare at each other. Neither of us says it out loud, but something happened. Something years ago, something buried so deep it only comes up in dreams and half-drawn sketches. A week later. It's around 3 a.m. when I wake up in bed, gasping. I'm alone. Sheets damp, my wrist stings. I reach for the lamp and freeze, because there's a bruise forming. Small, deep purple, right where Jacob grabbed me in last night's dream, yelling something I couldn't understand. I take a photo, send it to him. No message, just the image. 2 minutes later, he calls. "I had a dream," he says. His voice is shaking. "You were drowning. I pulled you out. You were screaming. I grabbed your wrist." We sit there in silence. He breathes into the phone like it hurts. I finally say, "You left a mark." There's a long pause. "Then I'm not crazy," he says. Later that night, he stays over. Neither of us want to be alone anymore. He falls asleep first, restless, and at some point, I hear him whisper in his sleep, "I didn't want them to take you." My blood runs cold, because I've said that line before, in a dream, word for word, but not to him, to someone behind glass. A few hours later, I don't remember falling asleep, but I wake up on the studio floor, paint crusting on my fingers, canvas propped in front of me. It's red. Not art red, not a wash of colour, just red, violent, uneven, like it was smeared in a panic. Beneath it, there's something scratched in with the butt of a brush, letters barely visible under the dried paint. "Don't remember." My hands shake as I stare at it. My clothes are strained. There are flecks of red under my nails, but I have no memory of painting it. When Jacob arrives that afternoon, he stops dead the second he sees it. "I've seen this," he whispers. "In a dream. A room just like this. That exact message. I think I was screaming." I show him my arm. Another bruise. Fresh. Finger-shaped. "I think I did this to myself," I say, "but I don't know why." Jacob moves to touch the canvas, but flinches back. His nose starts bleeding. No warning, no reason, just blood running over his lip. Something doesn't want us looking deeper. Something knows we're remembering, and it's starting to fight back. A few days later. It starts with dust. We're at my dad's house. He's out of town, and Jacob's helping me look for old sketchbooks, anything that might explain how I started drawing him before I even met him. The attic is a furnace, boxes stacked like forgotten lives. We're both sweaty and gross, elbow deep in old notebooks and childhood junk. Jacob's sitting cross-legged on a tarp, flipping through one of my middle school journals. His shirt rides up slightly as he leans forward, and I try very hard not to look at the strip of skin peeking out. "Hey," he says suddenly. "What's this?" I crawl over. He's holding a manila folder, no label, just old and warped. Inside, photos. Kids asleep on cots, notes in neat handwriting, medical forms. There's one of me, maybe 12 years old, eyes closed, wires taped to my temples. In the next photo, Jacob. Same age, same wires, same room. We looked at each other, like our hearts just stopped at the same time, and then we find the paper. Study participant log, shared dream experiment. Project name, Somno Genesis. Location, Redwood Behavioral Center. Status, discontinued. Jacob reads out loud, his voice barely above a whisper. Subjects reported identical dreamscapes. Shared memories, phantom injuries, project terminated after 4 participants reported sleep trauma with physical consequences? I look down at my wrist, at the faint echo of a bruise I still haven't explained. We sit in silence for a long time, and then Jacob reaches for my hand. Slow, deliberate, not scared. Just there, warm, real. And I let him hold it. A week later, we drive out on a rainy Thursday. The Redwood Behavioral Center's address is still online, but when we get there, it's an abandoned lot. Overgrown grass, cracked pavement, a mailbox hanging off its hinge. But there's a foundation, and a chain-link fence, and a buried sign under the weeds that reads, "Private property, do not enter." We ignore it. Jacob finds the concrete slab first, half covered in moss, but the symbol etched into it is identical to the one on the folder, a circle intersected by a vertical line. Why would they hide this? I ask. Jacob runs his hand along the crumbling stone. Because it worked? We crawl through a gap in the fence. Inside, there's nothing, just broken walls and shattered glass. But the minute we step onto the main floor, something shifts. Like we've been here before. Jacob walks into one of the old rooms without thinking. "Here," he says softly. "This was my bed." I look to the far wall, and there, scratched faintly into the brick, is my name. Evan. I don't remember carving it, but I know I did. We're standing in a ghost of our own childhood, and it hits me all at once that maybe we've been connected this whole time. Not haunted, not cursed, just pulled back. "I used to wait for you," Jacob says. "Every night. In the dreams. I didn't know your name, but I knew your laugh. I think I missed you before I even knew what missing meant." I run toward him, and something shifts in my chest, like a window unlocking, like grief turning into light. "You remember that now?" I ask. He nods. His eyes are glassy, wide, not scared, just stunned. "I didn't know why I felt so drawn to you," he says, voice raw. "But I think part of me never stopped waiting," he exhales shakily. "And now I remember what I was waiting for." And then he does it. He kisses me. Soft, hesitant, like he's touching a memory, like he's testing the world to see if it'll fall apart. It doesn't, because this isn't new. This is something we lost, something that's finally come back. A few days later. We don't mean to trigger it, but it happens. We're back in my studio, looking through the last canvas, the one I'd blacked out in red weeks ago. I finally scraped it back today, and underneath all the mess, A drawing of us, 2 kids, holding hands in a white room, a door behind them. Jacob touches the door in the painting, just lightly, and he collapses. Not unconscious, just gone. Eyes open, but not here. I catch him, shake him, call his name, and then, suddenly, it happens to me too. The flashback hits like a wave. We're kids again. 10, maybe 11, standing side by side in a lab room. The doctors are watching us through glass. We're holding hands, whispering. They want to split us up, I say. But if we hold on, we'll meet again. Jacob nods, tears in his eyes. Promise? I promise. When I jolt awake, Jacob's already crying. He looks at me, completely wrecked. It was real, he whispers. All of it. We were friends. We were more. We were kids, I say. They took it from us. He crawls into my lap like he can't stand the space between us. I don't want to forget again, he says. Then we won't. We sit there, tangled together on the floor of my studio, not haunted, not broken, just remembering and rebuilding what we once lost, together. A few months later, it takes weeks to repaint the gallery. I scrub over every canvas, every bruise, every shadow, every echo of pain, and start again. This time, it's not just one face haunting the walls. It's 2. 2 boys, one with his hand outstretched, one reaching back. In some, they're holding each other. In others, they're sitting side by side, eyes closed, sleeping peacefully under strange stars. I call the show Dreamscape, because that's what it feels like, what we feel like. A dream we lost once and finally found again. My dad helps me hang the last piece. He's quieter these days, more careful with me, but he's trying. He even shows up with lemonade and a folded chair like he's worried I'll forget to sit. I should have told you, he says once, eyes on the canvas of the lake with the cartoon sun towel. But I was scared. You were so small. I didn't know what they'd done until it was too late, and when you came home and smiled again, I didn't want to break that. I nod. I get it now. Or maybe I'm just tired of carrying anger. I forgive you, I say, and I mean it, because sometimes love looks like silence, and sometimes it looks like finally speaking up. Opening night is quiet at first. A few early visitors, mostly art kids with tiny notebooks and loud boots. I'm trying not to pace, not to sweat, not to look at the door every 5 seconds like a total lunatic. And then I see him, Jacob, standing just past the entrance, hands in his coat pockets, soft green eyes lit up like I hung the moon instead of paint on canvas. He walks towards me, slow, confident, different than before, calmer, like he's not scared anymore. He stops in front of the painting closest to the window, 2 boys in a white room, holding hands. I remember everything, he says softly. I smile. My heart does that thing where it trips a little, like it's trying to catch up. We were just kids, I say, but I think we loved each other then, too. He steps closer. And now? I laugh. Now it's not a dream. Then he kisses me. Not like we're unraveling, not like we're running, just soft, certain, here. And I kiss him back like it's the most natural thing in the world. Because it is. Because after everything, after the bruises, the dreams, the blood, the forgetting, we found our way home. To the truth. To each other. And this time, we're not letting go. 3 years later. I don't paint from dreams anymore. Not because I've stopped dreaming, but because the real thing is better. Right now, he's lying on the bed in my studio, completely naked, limbs loose and golden in the late afternoon light, one hand tucked behind his head like he owns the place, which he kinda does. His shirt's still hanging on the back of my chair, his rings are in a messy pile near the sink, his mouth keeps twitching like he wants to smirk, but he's holding still for me. Barely. You're staring, he says, voice lazy. I'm working, I shoot back, dragging my brush across the canvas. Shut up. He shifts slightly, not enough to ruin the pose, but just enough for the muscles in his stomach to flex. I catch the motion with my brush. I always do. My hands know him like muscle memory now. 3 years, he says, not looking at me. You think you've got me memorized yet? Have you seen your face? I grin. It's a full-time job. That makes him laugh. God, I love that sound. He stretches a leg, rolls to one side, and props his chin on his hand. Still naked, still infuriatingly casual about it. I lower the brush. That's not the pose, he shrugs. Bored? Paint me like this. You're impossible. You love me. I roll my eyes, set the brush down, and walk over to him. He's all warm skin and smug lips and green eyes that still undo me every time they look at me like this. Like I'm art, like I'm his. I sit on the edge of the bed. His fingers drift to my knees. Slow, familiar. I used to paint you from memory, I murmur. From shadows. I'd wake up shaking and hope I got your mouth right. And now? Now you're real, I whisper. And I still can't stop painting you. He pulls me down, one hand on my hip, the other curled around the back of my neck. The kiss is slow, hot, deep like a promise. When we pull apart, he brushes his nose against mine and says, No more forgetting. Ever. I nod, because he's not a ghost anymore. He's not a dream, he's the love of my life. And this is the painting I'll never have to finish, because every day he gives me something new to fall in love with. And every night I get to go to sleep beside him. Not haunting, not waiting, just home. The end. Do you think some souls are meant to find each other, no matter how many times they're pulled apart? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.